viewers, thank you very much for being part of English with Aaron and Robert. And here again we come with another lesson, and today we are looking at section B part of the paper. In section B we have composition and then comprehension, but to be specific, today we are going to look at composition, and we shall look at a picture story or a picture composition. So we need to understand, if we are given a picture story or a picture composition, how do we attempt the questions about that particular story? Let's take a look. So when we are given a picture composition, we have to follow these guidelines. 1. Read the instructions carefully in order to understand the tense which you are supposed to use. Sometimes they say, study the pictures below and describe what is happening in each picture. So there we have to use the present continuous tense. And in some other cases they say, study the pictures and describe what was happening in each picture. So there you have to use the past continuous tense. But we, in most cases, use two tenses. We, in most cases, use the present continuous and then the present perfect tense. The continuous form is used for long actions, and then the perfect tense is used for short actions. If we talk about the continuous tense, that's where we use is and are as the helping verbs. Then the main verb used in that particular sentence ends with ing. That one is used for long actions. Then for short actions, we mean those actions that take place very fast. Actions like bite, actions like fall, actions like knock. Those ones are often not used in the progressive form, because by the time you realize the action, it has already ended. So we use the present perfect tense, and in the present perfect tense, we use has or have as the helping verbs. After reading through the instructions, then you can study the guiding words. Sometimes we are given the words which should guide us to construct correct sentences about each and every picture. In case those words are given, study them. And having studied the guiding words, study the pictures as well. Study the pictures one at a time. Then you can match the guiding words to those pictures. Study the guiding questions to identify the hidden objects and subjects as they are addressed. So we in most cases have the questions at the end of that particular picture composition or picture story. So we are supposed to read through those questions before we answer or before we describe the pictures. Those questions at the end of the picture story help us to identify some of the subjects and the objects as they are addressed. So it's necessary that you read through those questions before you start describing pictures. Focus on the subject making the story. As you are describing the pictures, focus on that subject that is making a story. We may have some other things in the background. Those things in the background are not necessary. Only focus on that subject that is making a story. Avoid using the passive voice. When we are describing these pictures, we only use the active voice. And in the active voice, that's where we begin with the subject, we put the verb, and we end with the object. The subject here, I mean the doer of the action, and the verb is the action that is done. Then the object is the receiver of the action. So you should make sure that your sentence appears in that particular pattern. Subject, verb, and then object. Remember to use articles a or an when introducing a countable subject or object. These indefinite articles, articles a and an, are used whenever we are introducing or whenever we are talking about a common noun for the first time. Singular common noun for the first time. So we use articles a and an to introduce those common nouns. And we use these articles depending on the pronunciation of the word. How the word is said out matters when we are going to use those two articles. Then we use article the when talking about a subject or an object which has already been mentioned. For instance, if you talk about the subject in the first picture and that subject appears again, when you have talked about that subject for another time, you will have to use article the. The will be used to talk about that particular subject or object which had already been mentioned in the previous pictures. Then we can as well use the word some to introduce uncountable nouns. We can say some men, we can say some people, and so on and so forth. We can as well use numbers. We can say 2 men are loading some sand on a wheelbarrow. We can say 2 men are preparing the garden, and so on and so forth. As long as you count and mention the right number, you can as well introduce the common nouns with that particular number. And then we should not introduce plural subjects with any article. When we are given a plural subject or a plural object, don't use any article to introduce that particular subject. Just begin with the subject without any article. For emphasis, I'm saying that we use the continuous tense for long actions and then the perfect tense for short actions. The continuous tense, I've said, we use is or are as the helping verbs in this particular case, followed by the verb ending with ing. Then for short actions, where we apply the present perfect tense, we shall use has or have as the helping verbs. So right on your screen is an example of a picture story or a picture composition. Like I said, the first thing we do, we read through the instructions. So let us take a closer look at the instructions. The pictures A to F tell a story. Study them and write one sentence to describe what is happening in each picture. You may use any of the following words to help you. Going back to the instruction, describe what is happening. So meaning that we have to use the present continuous tense. And they are telling us we may use any of the following words. So you may or may not use these words here. But it's very necessary that you follow these words and use them rather than using your own. So let's take a look at the pictures as we relate them to the words which have been provided up there. The words which have been provided are kneading, building, pray, bricks, roofing, pay, clay, builders, congratulations, bake, happy. So we can now study the pictures from the first one up to the last one. We have picture A. You can see what is happening. Picture B. picture C, picture D, picture E, and lastly, picture F. Having studied the pictures, we now need to look at the guiding questions. Like we said, the guiding questions help us to identify the hidden objects and subjects as they are being addressed. So we are provided with the questions which we also have to answer after describing the pictures. And the first question is, from which material did the man make bricks? Who do you think is the owner of the new house in picture E? What is the man kneeling down doing in picture D? Why do you think the reverend should be happy with the owner of the house? Having read through the guiding words, we shall now come back to the pictures. We match the words to the pictures. And remember, as we match these words to the pictures, we should identify the subject, the verb, and the object for each and every picture. Let's begin with picture A. So, picture A, the words that we can match to picture A, the subject, in the picture, we have two men, like you can see. Then the verb we've decided to use is making, and the object is bricks. We have borrowed this verb making from the questions which we have looked at. Picture B, the words that we can match to this picture, the subject, the men. We say the men because we had already talked about these men. The verb we can use baking, and the object is the bricks. We had already talked about bricks, so we introduce it using article the bricks. Picture C, we shall use these words. The subject is builders, and we don't introduce this one with any article simply because it is in the plural form like we looked at in the guidelines. The verb will be building, and the object is a house. We say a house because we are introducing this common noun house, or we are talking about this common noun for the first time. So that's why we use that indefinite article a. Picture D, the subject is the builders. We had already used that word builders, so we place article the before that word. The verb is roofing, like you can see in the picture, and then the object is the house. We use article the simply because we had already used that particular word. Picture E, we shall use these words, or we shall match these words to the pictures. We have the subject as the owner, then the verb is giving, and the object is the builders. Picture F, the subject is the reverend, the verb congratulating from the guiding words that we have, then the object is the owner. So after matching the words to the pictures, you now come back and form sentences using the words that you have matched to the pictures. Let's come back to picture A. In picture A, we had these words, two men making bricks. So we come up with the sentence as, two men are making bricks. You transfer that sentence, and that sentence answers A, part A of this question. So our answer is men are making bricks. You write it like that. So we now go to B, and we are supposed to describe picture B. Add these words, the men baking the bricks. So we come up with the sentence as, the men are baking the bricks. Our answer appears like that. The men are baking the bricks. Next is question C, where we are supposed to describe picture C. See, we used these words, builders building a house. So we come up with the sentence as, builders are building a house. Present our answer like that. Builders are building a house. Question D, we are supposed to describe picture D. In picture D, we had used these words, the builders roofing the house. So we come up with the sentence as, the builders are roofing the house. Present your answer like this. The builders are roofing the house. We are going to part E of the same question, and we are supposed to describe picture E. Picture E, we have the owner giving the builders. What is the owner giving the builders? So we shall say the owner is giving money to the builders. The owner is giving money to the builders. The owner of the house is giving money to the builders. The owner of the house is giving money to the builders. Part F, describing this picture, and we had these words, the reverend congratulating the owner. We come up with the answer as, the reverend is congratulating the owner of the house on completing it. The reverend is congratulating the owner of the house on completing it. Let's go to part G of the same number. From which material did the man make bricks? This question appears in the past simple form, so we are also supposed to bring out our answer in the same tense. So we bring our answer in the past simple form. What helps us to know that this sentence appears in the past simple form? The helping verb did, which has been given in the sentence, helps us to identify that the sentence appears in the past simple form. So this tense marker did affects the main verb make to be changed to the past simple form, and make changes to made. And we say the man made bricks from clay. We have got this one from the guiding words which we had been given. When you look at the guiding words, in the guiding words we have the word clay. So that's where we have picked our answer from. Question H. Who do you think is the owner of the new house in picture E? We come back to picture E, and we first look at picture E, and we see who could be the owner of the house, of the new house in picture E. Back to the question. Questions of this nature. Who do you think? You are the one answering the question. So you begin your answer with I. And the word think is a key word in this particular question. It must be reflected back in your answer. So your answer begins with I think. So we have come up with the answer as, I think the man paying the builders is the owner of the house in picture E. What is the man kneeling down doing in picture D? So we have to go back to picture D. Looking at picture D, the man who is kneeling down, you can see he has a saw and he is cutting that piece of wood. So we shall say the man kneeling down in picture D is cutting wood. The man kneeling down in picture D is cutting wood. Final question is, why do you think the reverend should be happy with the owner of the house? Questions which have the keyword as think require your opinion, so you answer or you bring out your answer in your own opinion. And like I said, we have to say I think, or we begin our answer with I think. So we shall come up with the answer like this. After looking at the picture, we may have different answers depending on how we think. We may not think in the same way. We have different opinions about this. But my opinion is, I think the Reverend should be happy with the owner of the house because he has successfully completed it. So thank you very much for learning with us. We are still English with Aaron and Robert. Continue to tell your friends to subscribe for more English video lessons. And for any inquiries, don't hesitate to call these numbers here: 0758 586554, 0785 347652. I remain Lucky Norbert, your teacher at English with Aaron and Norbert.